Hi, I'm Ichha Sharma, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. As we head into the new year, we're looking back at some of the biggest moments from 2025. After talking about the most prominent movies and the most impactful health development, yesterday we spoke to veteran journalist Neerja Chaudhary, who picked 5 personalities who shaped Indian politics this year. But today, we're turning our attention to the world of sports and presenting to you the latest episode of the Express Sports podcast, where we explored the biggest sporting moments of 2025. Here's the episode in its entirety.
Hello and welcome to Express Sports Podcast. This is the last game time of 2025 and जैसा कि customary है हमें ये कहना ही है कि यार ये साल कब चला गया पता ही नहीं चला. It wasn't I don't know if Amit and Vinayakk who are here with us will agree with me, but I'd rather say that this was a slow sports year. There weren't like mega sporting events that we were used to post-COVID every year. थोड़ा सा शांत था, but still we weren't short of storylines. And what we have done this year is slightly different from the previous ones. We thought कि आप हम तीनों को तो हमेशा सुनते ही हो, so we'll go beyond the three of us, beyond the sports team even, and try to get a sense of what the rest of the Indian Express newsroom thought of the year in sport. Amit, Vinayakk and I do not know what people have said. It's only one person who has all the intel, and that is our producer Shashank Bhargava. So Shashank, before Amit and Vinayakk come in, why don't you tell us what is in store for us?
Yeah, so we were having a discussion about what should we do for the year-ender episode, and we thought we'll actually speak to people in office who are not part of the sports team about what their favorite sporting moment of 2025 was. And we thought that unlike you guys, these are the people who only watch sports for the love of it. You guys do it for both money and love. So we thought we'll speak to these people.
Just money, yeah.
Just money, no love.
Okay, great. That's good to know. So then it's good that we spoke to these people who are just genuine fans of whatever, sport they follow. And yeah, I had a great time speaking to these people, and a lot of them spoke about their moments very passionately. So yeah, and we have 10 of them. So I hope you guys are excited and looking forward to it. And one thing I want to say, obviously, is that a bunch of people spoke about cricket, because how can you not talk about cricket? But
yeah, it's very easy to not talk about cricket. Mihir, me and Vinayakk do it all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, so are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Yes, let's go.
Okay. So I thought maybe, we could start with a non-cricket sport first, because we'll hear a lot about cricket. So I thought maybe we could begin with a non-cricketing sport. In fact, sport that, is not a racket sport either. Doesn't involve a ball. So I thought we could start with that first. The first person that we'll be hearing from is Udit Mishra. He writes for The Economy for the paper. He has a column with us called Explained Speaking. He writes for the Explained team quite a bit. So here's Udit Mishra talking about his favorite sporting moment of 2025.
Well, it's not exactly a one particular moment, but I follow Formula One in a bizarre manner. I follow it on some years and then I let it go, because Formula One has a history of cars dominating and then becomes very boring. But every 3-4 years, it becomes very interesting because there's massive surge in competition. This was one of those years. And so it's not exactly a moment, but it's the last 3-4 months of Formula One racing, where the defending champion, Max Verstappen for Red Bull Racing, was completely down and out in the first half of the year till August. But in the last 9 races, he's won 6 of them and came very close to actually winning the title. And in fact, one could say that he actually won more Formula One races this year than the 2 McLaren drivers, one of them being Lando Norris, who eventually won because of the point system. But if you were to just look at the number of races won, Max Verstappen ended up winning more races in the year. So why it stood out for me is because I was never a big Max Verstappen fan. I used to root for Lewis Hamilton, who was an underdog when he sort of started. So I used to root for Hamilton. He's also one of his kind. There are hardly any black drivers, and very different from the nasty Formula One driver that we all know of, the winners. And I sort of reached a breaking point, as it were, in 2021 when in the last Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, almost unfairly, Lewis Hamilton lost out to Max Verstappen. That victory would have made Lewis Hamilton the 8-time world champion, an unparalleled achievement, and he got stuck with 7, and since then there's been a slide. And so I did like Max Verstappen, almost like a kid fan, still sulking over Lewis Hamilton's fate. But the second half of this year, actually, I found that I was rooting for Max because he showed, even though this year was not when he actually won, I suspect that this year will be the year and his performance would be the one that would actually turn him into the legend that he actually is, because he scored all these points and he won all these races with a car which was nowhere near as dominating as the McLarens or even other cars like Mercedes. So what I saw in the second half of the year was this man really at the top of his craft, not making mistakes and really getting more out of, where the man matters more than the machine. And that was sort of the standout moment or notion in my head for this year. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty interesting, Amit, Vinayak, because we generally feel, I at least generally feel that after Formula One went off the quote unquote big TV channels, right? It's not on any of the OTT platforms, the mainstream ones at least. I thought the viewership would have been impacted, but I've realized that it has like a niche following of its own, maybe because of Drive to Survive या जो भी हो. But then ऐसे storylines आ जाते थे. जैसे Verstappen, which was crazy. He was more than 100 points behind in the championship race in August, and he lost the title to Lando Norris by just 2 points. So it's quite stunning in that sense.
Actually, I want something to add to that. I have stopped following Formula One, like Udit was saying there, for a long time. I mean, I don't think I've actually followed Formula One properly since my undergrad days, which is 16 years back now. But I did watch the movie this year, the F1 movie, and something that you said, Mihir, on the niche following that it has. Like, I watched a couple of times in theaters, and the first time I saw it was probably the second or third day, if I remember right. And the theater was packed here in Noida. People came wearing Formula One, merchandise, and there was, huge cheers every time there was, a reference, or I think Lewis Hamilton comes once. These real-life drivers come here and there in cameos, and they're, massive cheers. Okay, so this is a proper phenomenon now. And I think what you said, the Drive to Survive, I think...
But in Noida, though, Formula One is a mainstream sport.
Yeah, probably not, I guess, Delhi Noida crowd. But I think, the success of F1 movie overall kind of tells me that, Drive to Survive and all these recent developments have, kept the sport relevant, I would guess. Not for me. I love the movie. I still didn't follow the season, but I thought that was interesting.
And me, just like Udit said, I am only fascinated by the fortunes of one guy, usually Lewis Hamilton. And so this season was very fascinating for me because it's Lewis Hamilton, one of the most storied drivers, racing for the first time with Ferrari, one of the most storied teams. And he ends up, I think the season, he was, sixth or something in the standings. So that's how terrible the combination was. On paper, it looks great, but that's how terrible it went. And there was this one moment where I think he was desperately trying to tell his team that, let me go ahead. I think this was during Miami or something, where he's trying to tell his team that, please let me overtake my teammate Charles Leclerc, and both of us have different strategies. Let me overtake. And these guys are taking their own sweet time. Okay. It's a sport of speed, and these guys are being glacial about it. So Hamilton finally snaps on the radio. Yeah, have a tea break while you're at it, That I think summed up beautifully how frustrating it can be for somebody like a Lewis Hamilton and how frustrating it can be for some of his fans.
Yeah, it's quite stunning. I actually purchased the subscription just to watch Formula One at the start of the season. And I ended up watching just one lap of the Saturday sprint race. That's it. I have not followed the rest of the season as closely as I would have liked, but here's hoping the New Year resolutions and all that. That's an interesting first one, Shashank. What do we have next?
Okay, so next, I think let's talk about what is perhaps the most popular sport in the world. And the person that we'll be hearing from is Siddharth Upasani. He's part of the business team, he primarily reports on data and the economy. And so, a lot of looking at numbers. So he was happy to take out time and talk about, something other than that. So here's Siddharth talking about his favorite moment.
Well, if you narrow it down to just one moment, it's going to be difficult. For simply, I support Liverpool Football Club and they won the league title, the English Premier League, after having changed the legendary manager, Jurgen Klopp, last year. And they won it under the new manager in the first offing. But in terms of the big story from a football perspective, European football perspective, I would say it's always romantic when a small club, a so-called small club, does well and does so well that it actually wins something. I mean, every once in a while you see that a small club beats a Barcelona, a Real Madrid, a Manchester City. But Crystal Palace, which is a London-based club, is in the midst of the best year of its existence. In May, it defeated Manchester City in the final of the FA Cup, which is the oldest football competition in the world. It defeated City 1-0. City obviously managed by Pep Guardiola, who is widely regarded as the greatest manager ever. And Manchester City are, of course, the most dominant force in English football for the last decade. What has also helped is the manager, Oliver Glasner, who took over in February 2024, if I remember correctly. And he's, by all accounts, the best manager they've ever had. He is probably in the top 2, 3, 4 best managers in the Premier League right now. Currently, Palace are 4th in the Premier League, 4th out of 20. So they are in what is called the Champions League position, which is Champions League is obviously the most prestigious competition in Europe. They should not be in that position. There is no tangible reason for them to be there. It's just that they are there. And to be fair, Crystal Palace aren't the only team doing really well right now. When I say only team, I mean the so-called small club, the likes of Brighton and Hove Albion. They have sold players for more than 300 million over the last 2 or 3 years itself. Felipe Caicedo, an Ecuadorian, was sold to Chelsea for 115 million pounds. Alexis McAllister, the World Cup winner with Argentina, was sold to Liverpool for 35 to 50 million, depending on which number you believe. And they are, I think, 7th or 8th right now. And they're also working under a really young 32, 33-year-old manager who also came from the German league, the Bundesliga, the second division actually. And they're all just winning. Another club, Bournemouth, who have literally sold their entire defense this summer. Dean Huijsen went to Real Madrid for 50 million pounds. Milos Kerkez, Hungarian, went to Liverpool for 40 million. Another Ukrainian central back, Zabanai, went to PSG Paris for 70 million. And they have had a bad few set of results the last 5-6 games. But they were in the top 10 of the league where they shouldn't have been. So for me, the story of 2025 is these so-called smaller clubs doing exceedingly well. Just to give an idea of how small Bournemouth is, their entire stadium can house maybe 12,000 people, which is a 6th of, let's say, Arsenal, a 5th of Liverpool, a 7th of Manchester United. Their revenues are incredibly small in terms of what they can generate on their own and not what they get from, let's say, broadcast and TV deals, which is split fairly evenly amongst Premier League clubs. But they should not be doing so well. So for me, it's the small clubs who are the story of 2025.
It's just amazing how he started with Liverpool winning the title and just ignored the current struggles of Liverpool. So let's just see if we can get him on board and drag him on that. But it is funny because when he mentioned small clubs, he was just going to talk about Arsenal, although they can classify as a small club, no?
No, but that's a really nice point that he brought up. I think Newcastle are technically not a small club, but they also won, I think, after ages.
I mean, they haven't won a title or anything. So Crystal Palace won something.
Yeah, it was a nice year for Crystal Palace to defeat City in an FA Cup final was amazing. And I think they followed it up with a Community Shield win as well at the start of the season by beating Liverpool. And yeah, I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I'd say thanks to Crystal Palace for those 2 big results, which probably meant Eberechi Eza could come to Arsenal. His stocks rose, and yeah, it's nice for them to win something. And yeah, good. Always these underdog stories are always fascinating. I think right now, as we are recording, they've slipped down a little bit, but yeah, his point stands.
By the way, couldn't you tell that he looks at a lot of data?
Yeah, that's what Vinayakk said, right? It's a good point. He's a proper numbers man. And in Bournemouth ka stadium capacity उसे पता था यार, which is like quite stunning, I must say.
Very, very passionately put forward too. I think you could see that he was a numbers man from the way he explained all those transfers and things like that.
Yeah, let's move to the number 3, Shashank.
Yeah, let's move to the number 3. And I was thinking maybe we could do one more non-cricketing sport before we move on to cricket, okay? So the next person that we'll be hearing from is Asad Rahman. He writes on politics. Specifically, he covers the Congress party, okay? So this is what he had to say.
See, I watch a range of sports. So I watch tennis, cricket, football, and try to stay updated with some other sports also like Formula One and some motor sports also. But the one moment that really stuck out for me this year was the French Open final in the tennis Grand Slam, in which Carlos Alcaraz defeated Yannick Sinner. So the two players, they are the next Roger Federer versus Nadal sort of rivalry has been brewing between them. And so I felt that match had everything, because like it started off with Sinner, being very dominant and completely running all over Alcaraz. And it was a 5-set match. In the first 2 sets, it was all Sinner, and Sinner was way ahead of Alcaraz. And then in the third set, Alcaraz had to defend 3 match points. And it was almost like that match was done. Like, I remember watching it at my home in Lucknow. I was on leave at the time. One of the reasons why I got to watch that match in pieces, because I was on leave. And the third set was almost done, and I was thinking that the match is almost over. There are 3 match points. Sinner's going to win one of them, and the match will be over. But Alcaraz managed to win all the 3 match points, basically defended all 3 match points, won that point, went on to win the set, and then went on to win another 2 sets and win the match. So if you think about the scale of the comeback, it was not just in that set, but it was also that Alcaraz could not put a foot wrong once he had gone down by 2 sets, and once those 3 match points were there. It was all about, everything had to be really, really perfect from him. A little slip up would have given Yannick Sinner a chance to win the match. So I think that moment really stuck with me. And I think this whole year, all the sports that I've watched, I think it's one of those moments, that a great comeback in a sports, in a match, in a game is something that really stays with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and in fact, in tennis, I think more than any other sport, it becomes a slightly easier to picture yourself in the middle, considering it's a very one-on-one gladiatorial sport in a sense, right? And you always, when you're trying to imagine sport, you're trying to imagine yourself in the middle of the thicket of action, you're always trying to think, I will be stored low in the whatever, and then I'll make a comeback. So from that perspective, I think it was one of the, as he said, one for the ages. The scale of the comeback was insane. A lot of people would have switched off the TVs and then maybe next day would have found out, something special happened. 100%. So this was one of the best moments, I think, sporting wise in the year. Vinayakk, anything?
Yeah, easily top 3 for me as well. Incredible match. I'd shared a stat recently. I think it's not about the French Open itself, but incredibly, after 16 matches officially with end of the year, Alcaraz and Sinner have played 16 matches, and the number of points won in their rivalry so far is equal, 1,651 points. Like the actual points that you win during a tennis match, like 30 love, 40 love, that point tally is exactly level after 16 matches. I think someone had shared this stat recently, and I went and checked their 16 matches and total points and all that. It turned out to be true. It's the year of Sinkaras, so to speak, 2025. Them splitting the 4 Grand Slams, 2 each, and Alcaraz finishing year-end number 1, but Sinner winning the year-end finale. Pretty incredible how this rivalry is developing. 2025 will be defined in tennis as the year Sinner and Alcaraz stepped up big time and left everyone behind them. Little worried about the gulf in gap between them and the rest of the field. Kind of might make it a little too predictable, but they are playing at a different level compared to those two. And that French Open final will be one for the ages. 5 hours and 29 minutes, if I remember vaguely. Incredible match and so many twists and turns. Just epic between these two.
Okay, perfect. So now we move on to cricket. Okay. There were a bunch of people who wanted to talk about cricket. Cricket was part of their favorite sporting moment of 2025. And we'll begin with Paromita Chakrabarti. She is part of the National Opinions team. She writes about books, about gender, about workplace politics. And this is what she had to say.
I think for me, the standout moment this year would be the Women's World Cup win in November. Everybody's talking about how it is the 1983 moment. It totally isn't. Simply because they've been there before when the men's cricket team went to England in 1983. They were rank outsiders. Nobody had any expectations of them. This women's team, however, were into World Cup finals. They came very close to winning it in 2017. So this just seemed like a homecoming of sorts. But what I really, really enjoyed was how the women paid tribute to the ones who came before them and how they paved the way for those after them. I don't know if you saw this interaction they had with the president after the win, where they spoke of how they have picked up the pieces from Mithila Raj, Diana Adulji, Anjum Chopra, and how their journey has been made easier because of that. So any sort of sisterhood is something that I have deep regard for, and it has shown in the way these women have played. Most of them are not from big cities. They've come from the margins of India, but the way they came together on that field, it was something amazing. I think that is my standout moment.
Was there any particular moment in any particular match that stood out to you?
I think Amanjot Kaur's catch to get the South African captain out in the final. She was almost losing it. She juggled around with it, and when she finally caught it, you could have seen the look on the South African captain's face. But it was amazing. I think that was the moment that will stand out for me. Yeah.
I actually loved how Paromita basically made it a point to kind of say that, let's stop trying to get equivalents with the men's sport in this and trying to say that, okay, men ke saath bhi aise hi hua tha 1983 mein. So that I think was a lovely way to put it. I completely agree with her that this may not be the 1983 moment for women's cricket, considering they had reached the final a couple of times before this, but they had not been able to get past. And we've done multiple stories also in the lead up to the World Cup or in the past couple of years about the kind of things that women's cricketers in India have had to endure. They are somebody who have never been given their due. You had, I think, almost 15 years after the IPL started, we got a women's league that also 5 teams, all of that. There's always that talk about how it's never traveling. It's always maybe in one city, all of those things. But yeah, I mean, this final that happened, that too in Mumbai, was clearly the crowning moment of women's cricket in India, because you had full fans, you had very passionate fans. Many of them had followed them for a while. So you had everything. And it was definitely the crowning moment for women's cricket in India, or in fact the world league.
Actually, the only way I see there are some similarities between 1983 and 2025 is on both instances, I feel the teams were completely dismissed. There weren't many chances given to any of them. I know that India were favorites and home soil and everything, but wider audience beyond the circle that closely followed women's cricket, there was still a lot of cynicism, I feel. I don't know, Vinayakk, if he felt the same way because he follows the team much closer than I do, but the level of cynicism I felt was the same, and also the neglect from the administration was at some level also quite similar. So those are the two reasons why I feel that it is similar to 1983, but not the bigger, broader picture, of course.
I'll just speak for the cynicism. Yeah, that definitely middle of the tournament after they lost those 3 matches, I think even they would agree that they weren't getting things right and it didn't look like a champion team, but credit to them for how they turned things around. I mean, yeah, goes without saying, easily the moment of 2025 for me was that. Actually, the semi-final was probably a bigger moment, so to speak. But yeah, the eventual catch that Harmanpreet Kaur took will just be replayed over and over again. Yeah, moment of the year for me, if I had to pick one.
Okay, guys, so now we are moving on to another person. Her name is Nayonika Bose. She is part of the Bombay Bureau. She writes about local governance and a lot of civic issues. And she's going to be talking about the cricketer who perhaps has the most fans in India. Maybe I'm right?
If one were to ask me about my favorite sporting moment of the year, it has to be Kohli's knockout performances and those centuries against South Africa in the 3-match ODI series, which concluded earlier this month, actually. Really, I mean, it felt so amazing to watch Kohli, back in his form and just to get that glimpse of the old Kohli. Because for me, I started watching cricket and around the time when Kohli joined the Indian cricket team. So just to get a glimpse of that old Kohli back felt so amazing. And the fact that this performance has come against the backdrop of so much speculation and so much criticism. And he had been going through a bad slump for a while now. And earlier this year, when he played during the Border Gavaskar Trophy, his performances had been poor, and then he ended up announcing his retirement from the test match. And soon after that, after the Indian cricket team won the T20 World Cup at West Indies, Kohli announced his retirement from the T20 format as well. So really at present, he's only left with the ODI cricket matches to prove his mettle as a cricketer. And it's not just the professional criticism, but also Kohli has been subjected to so much scrutiny in his personal life. And with so much negativity around you, you really need to be in a solid space to just block out the noise and continue practicing and continue just to have that kind of dedication towards the sport. So really, after all this, at the end of the year, when we got to see Kohli score a 135 in the first match and then 102 in the second match, it felt amazing. And, after the match ended, I would watch and wait to just hear Kohli speak because he's such an excellent speaker as well. So yeah, I mean, it just, unlike the bandwagon of selectors and former players and team management who would go on television to give their comments, the way Kohli stayed away from the limelight and trained hard and delivered when it mattered the most really was something for me.
It has been an interesting year for Kohli, right, guys? I mean, from the IPL title to everything that happened between him and Gautam Gambhir, at least reported to happen between him and Gambhir, the differences and everything, to then ending the year on such a high that, I mean, I'll be very surprised if he isn't in the squad for the 50-over World Cup in 2027. What a year for him.
Yeah, I think slightly unfortunately the whole IPL title it was great on the day that they won, but all the things that happened afterwards kind of took the sheen away from it, I thought, significantly, as it, should. It was kind of disappointing how things panned out after that. So I don't think it was celebrated, so to speak, as much as it might have been otherwise. So for him to come back to the ODI format and, with all the speculation about his future, both him and Rohit, to show what they're capable of in this, the format that they both aced through their careers, both of them probably are best at 50-over cricket among all three formats. So for them to show that they still have the fight, it's been interesting to see. I think, 2027 is still quite a bit away. So that sense, can they keep this going with just one format over the next year? In terms of their talent, there is no doubt. But do they still have the drive to hang around till 2027? I think it's more a them question than otherwise, I think. So it's going to be an interesting year to see how they mix and match their playing time. Something to look forward to in 2026.
Okay, guys. So although, Mihir, you mentioned in the beginning that, we spoke to people not from the sports team, there is one exception to that, which is that I spoke to Sandeep Dwivedi, the national sports editor, and also, I guess, aapke boss. And not because you asked me to or he asked me to, I just really wanted to speak to him. And I thought, since we are talking about cricket, I should also ask him about this. And I think he had a very interesting moment to share.
So I'll say that I was there, so it has stuck in my mind. India-England series, the most what-if series ever, like anything could have happened, right? So there you are sitting, I think it was the Lord's match, third test match, and it's getting late. And it's getting very late in India, where people here are waiting for you to file a copy. It's almost reaching 11ish, right? And on the crease is Siraj and Jadeja. They are having the partnership of their lives. Now they were supposed to score some 70, 80 runs for the last wicket, and they were almost reaching there. Now they are about 30 runs close, right? And there you're waiting to write, what is it, the greatest ever comeback by India? Or is it going to be a case of England snatching victory from the jaws of defeat? And all those phrases are in your mind, and what to write and what not to write, when to start, when to end. And again, like, I'm all set to write, okay, since these guys are playing exceptional cricket, like Siraj is middling every ball and Jadeja is not giving him strike, and Siraj is saying, I will play, like, you don't worry at all. And absolutely his confidence is perfect. Like, he has the right to bat and he is batting. And then after tea or lunch it was, and they get Shoaib Bashir. Now Shoaib Bashir has got an injured hand. He's got fractured one hand and he's just bowling with his one hand. And he bowls a ball to Siraj. And Siraj actually, from the middle of his bat, he defends the ball. And that ball, in a crazy, freaky thing which I have never ever seen in cricket, the ball bounces in front of him and then suddenly takes a U-turn toward the stump, and there's a small pebble on the way. It climbs over it and hits the stump, and just one bail drops, right? So I haven't never ever seen a drama like this. It's a crazy moment which just still gets stuck in my mind. And Siraj was here for our idea exchange, and he said, अभी भी मैं रात को जब मैं सोता हूँ, तो I remember that ball, that bail falling from the stumps, and he still gets nightmares for that. And again, he insists that, please, मैंने ball middle of the bat से मारा था. I had not edged it. I was not beaten by that ball, but still I got out.
Yeah, I mean, guys, I think when we just think of that series, there are so many what-if moments. And this one happened in such slow motion, right? The moment the ball hits Siraj's bat to hitting the stumps, it's almost a filmy ending to it. The slow motion and the celebration, and one guy is almost in tears, and everything that happened over there it was incredible.
And especially how it kind of framed the whole series, right? Like, before the team went there, everybody was saying that, very young team, Shubman Gill as captain.
Yeah, totally.
No Rohit, no Virat. How will they fare? All of that is happening. Then suddenly you have this seesawing of a series which ends with India basically, I think, winning by 6 runs or something in the final test? Like, as close as it can get. And if I'm not mistaken, this was the one tour where all matches went for all 5 days. So all 25 days ka action we got. So insane number of things happening in this whole series.
And kind of fitting, like, how he came back and was the face of, or the heart of India's win in the 5th test that leveled the series. That I think the moments, Siraj's moments almost define the series. The Lord's incident, then, stepping on the boundary rope in the 5th test in a catch that could have potentially been costly, and then running into bowl. I think he bowled like a crazy number of deliveries in that over, only pacer from either side to play 5 matches, and then to deliver that final spell. Yeah, incredible moments. Just the Siraj moments from that series will make it to many highlights of the year, I think.
Yeah, and the way Australia are thrashing England right now, it just goes to show कि दोनों teams, India और England, कितना error prone था. And it's like watching 2 football teams with open defenses, right? Just entertaining. So I think it was one of those kind of series.
Okay, so this is our last cricketing bit. This one is coming from Sonal Gupta. She writes features and explainers on a wide range of things, from art and culture and international affairs. And Mihir obviously spoke to her. So this is what she said.
So for me, 2025, I wouldn't really call it like one moment, but as someone who doesn't really consider herself as a cricket fan, and I know this comes across as something you can't really say in India, but as someone who doesn't follow cricket a lot, and I probably know like 4 to 5 people in the current squad, but someone I've still come across because I follow so much of social media for my work, is Arshdeep Singh. That man is after the Gen Z heart. I feel like he's also 26 years old. He has a long career ahead of him, I'm sure. But he's so fun to follow on social media because I think he really brings this behind the scenes vibe to the whole cricket squad. You always see, like we have Virat Kohli, you have Rohit Sharma and all these other people, and you see that their feeds on Instagram are very like, either they're very branded or they're curated and very polished. Everything is neat and perfect. But I think Arshdeep Singh brings like this very chaotic energy to Instagram. You see him following all the trends that are going on. I saw one reel where, he's dancing alongside Kuldeep Yadav. And it's very funny to see like these men in blue being awkward, they're dancing. There was a very recent reel that came out with Virat Kohli that I think did really well. I think it had like some over 100 million views or something. And it's just a joke about how Virat Kohli couldn't take a century because the target, I don't know what it's called, but the run rate or whatever, it was not, enough for him to actually score a century. And I found that really funny, and I'm sure other people did as well. But then there was a parallel reel that came out about the amount of convincing that Arshdeep had to do to get Virat to participate. And I find that really funny. I think for someone who is like a non-cricket fan, Arshdeep really brings like the homely, the human side of cricketers alive.
And any 2025 trend that he really picked on and did well in his reels?
I think a lot of like these recreating viral music videos, you had him doing Damien Gur. I don't know if everyone knows about it, but it's like you lip sync and you follow along this song. And he did that. And that's how I actually discovered him. I found that hilarious because I've never seen like professional cricketers, especially like national team cricketers, do this before. So that was very funny.
I think Indian cricket does need some characters like Arshdeep, no? Because otherwise, you have somebody like a Rohit who can be really funny, but their social media is full of some sponsored posts, branded content, all of that nonsense. But yeah, so I think Arshdeep in that sense, I find him really hilarious. Some of the videos that he does. There are also these antics of him mimicking fans and all of that while they're shouting Siraj's name and all of that and Jaiswal's name and all of that. And he's just a very colorful character. Lovely to see him.
I mean, I do that all the time, but not on this one. I think he should be the official behind the scenes guy of the Indian team. I mean, वैसे भी matches तो उसको कम ही मिलते हैं, तो might as well on tour might be of some use here.
I was thinking of, I don't disagree with any of this. Like, it's great what he does. I just remembering the Chahal TV that used to be there a while back, which eventually transcended into a little bit of cringe. I hope Arshdeep doesn't. I mean, he comes across as a naturally funny guy, so hope he continues doing this because, I definitely agree with what Sonal said. It's just not common in men's cricket. The women's team, I think, is a little more different that way. Especially, Jemmy is probably the first name that comes to mind when it comes to these Instagram stuff. They generally have a much more casual vibe about their social media than the men's team. I mean, whether it changes or not in the immediate future remains to be seen. But yeah, what Arshdeep does for the men's team is pretty unique. It's very interesting character for sure.
And Vinayk, because you mentioned cringe, I think I remember it's very easy for a lot of these franchises to, IPL franchises at least, to get influencers who will do like border on the proper cringe just because wo thode se popular and whatever. Na? Like I think LSG and all of these guys ka jo social media hai, that is like utter cringe. Matlab ab jab bhi dekho, it's like yuck.
Yeah, एक अच्छा है, but I mean, उसका sanitize नहीं है, like Instagram, na, or so that's a refreshing thing. But on this note, na, if anyone who slightly is interested in Indian football, it's extremely funny, sad way में to watch what Amay Ranavade is doing. Is this player with Kerala Blasters and national team, and बेचारा अभी ISL नहीं चल रहा है 8 महीनों से, तो वो reels डाल रहा है of him trying to be an Uber driver or तो Santa Claus बन रहा है रोड पे. It's just funny that what ISL guys are doing when there's nothing happening kind of a thing. But yeah, it's nice when players go out of that whole compulsion of being like very image conscious and sanitize on their social media and do something fun.
And in fact, because Vinayak mentioned Jemima, I remember abhi jab World Cup hua tha, so I think they had gotten Shreya Ghoshal to meet the team in the dressing room, and these guys forced her to sing a song, and Shreya Ghoshal says a few verses, and Jemmy being Jemmy just suddenly stands up on the table, points at her and says, "Aap Mumbai aa sakte ho." Like really fascinating, quick-witted guys, like very, very fun to see.
Okay, so now we're finally moving on from cricket. Okay, we will be hearing from Sakshi Chand. She is, she's based in Delhi.
Oh, this might be basketball.
Oh, yes, this is basketball. How do you know that, Mihir?
Well, I mean, from all the interactions I've had with her, it's always been about basketball. So,
yeah, that's correct. In fact, it was after we recorded that I found out that she used to play for UP.
So I basically have two, and they're both basketball related because that's the sport I follow. So one is in January, 74th Senior National Championship was held in Gujarat, where the match was going on between Punjab and Indian Railways. It was a neck-to-neck match throughout the time. And in the last, the score was 72 for Punjab and 70 for Indian Railways with 2 seconds left on the shot clock. And in those 2 seconds, this player, he plays for India also, Sahaj Singh Sekho. He, in a very disbalanced position, shot a three-pointer. We call it the buzzer beater shot, and it went in, and Railways won 73-72. And the other was during the under-19 Junior National Championship in Ludhiana. The Punjab team was playing with Uttar Pradesh. And usually you have tall players in basketball. So this Punjab player who's not like average height, his name was Mrigendra Singh Dhaliwal. He went over like a 6'1", 6'2" guy and did a poster dunk. We call it poster dunk because he went all over his body and slammed it in the ring. So that was the moment, like the entire stadium stood up. We were obviously watching it online. Those two moments were like the aura moments of 2025.
By the way, when you said you're going to talk about basketball, I thought you're going to talk about NBA. I did not know that you're going to talk about these specific moments from the domestic scene in India.
Yes, because ideally everybody likes to talk about NBA, international players and what they do. But I feel personally that there is a lot of recognition that the game needs in India. And also the fact that we also have very good players. Like we do have players from India who have gone and played in the NBA G League or who have gone and played in China and Serbia and all these places where the talent is considered to be top notch. So I'm personally a fan of watching domestic basketball and trying to lift the game from at the domestic level. I want the game to be lifted from there. That's why my moment is not NBA related. My moments are completely domestic to highlight that these players are also doing similar stuff, like how Stephen Curry shoots the ball with one leg flying in the air. That is exactly how Sekho's shot was. His one leg was flying in the air and he was almost about to fall to the sideline and he shot it in that disbalanced manner.
It's actually quite a stunning thing, guys. I mean, I don't know. I don't follow basketball that much, either NBA or the domestic game. Amit, I think you do follow basketball thoda bahut, na?
Yeah, and I think, I understand the point that she's making that India does have talent. But then, I think a lot of Indian players, like you have Princepal Singh, who's been given an opportunity to go play in the G League. And I've watched those games, right? When he was playing in the G League against other teams. And like he's somewhere 6'8" or something. He was playing in the power forward position back in that league. And he was legitimately getting bullied at the post, right? So I've seen that, and that kind of informed the decision that maybe Indians still need a lot more to be playing even in the G League. Forget the NBA actual league, but even the G League. So yeah, I mean, I completely understand our point that India does have a lot of talent, but it's not as if they've not been given opportunities. We've had multiple women. You have Hani Harsimran Kaur, who's playing in a D-League university. We have guys like Sanjana Ramesh who are playing in a D-League university in US. So they have been given those opportunities to make sure that they are in the pathway, to play in the WNBA at some point. But those things haven't worked out. It must be because of a reason. Like, I'm not getting into that whole argument about genetics and all of that, but I just feel that maybe there are certain things that are still not there among the Indian players at least.
I guess so. But I think for most of us who aren't tuned into the sport that much, the saddest moment from basketball would be of that Haryana player, Hardik Rathi, I think his name was, when the pole fell on him while he was just trying to go for a dunk. So that was one heartbreaking moment. And I think that's also the point in a way that she's trying to make, that India may have maybe players, but they don't get that kind of, I don't know if the infrastructure is poor universally across India or what, but yeah, that one kind of stayed with me, that moment.
No, but I mean, just one thing to add is what Shashank said. Like, I mean, I was genuinely surprised that she picked two Indian basketball moments. I didn't see that coming. So, yeah, color me surprised, Shashank.
Yeah, and in fact, talking about surprises, we have two more moments to go. And both of these actually kind of surprised me, one more than the other. This next one is coming from Ichha Sharma. She's actually part of the podcast team. She's part of my team. And actually, yeah, why don't you, I mean, वो उसके clip से ही पता चल जाएगा कि उसने क्या pick किया. So here's Ichha.
Right. So for me, something that I have been following quite recently is MotoGP. And it's only been a year for me, but I really love the sport. It's something, which is technical and tactical at the same time. And I really enjoy that there are so many different rider styles. And something that really stood out for me this season was, and for many others as well, was Marc Marquez, sealing his 7th Premier title at the Japanese Grand Prix. And it wasn't just about his win, actually. It was, seeing so many years of setbacks. And it was like a huge comeback for, I think, everyone. And apart from that, you also have his brother, Alex Marquez, who got his first MotoGP win at the Spanish Grand Prix, Jerez. And in that Grand Prix also, we saw like Marc was crashing, but it was more like, you could almost feel that new chapter energy for Alex. And of course, you have the Silverstone, where, to be honest, if you see from a different perspective, there was kind of a late heartbreak for Quartararo. But you have Bezzecchi winning there as well. And something which I can just not stop thinking about is that, just related to Bezzecchi, was again that he actually went on to win the Australian Grand Prix after hitting a seagull at the start of it, early on in the race. So that was something that as well happened this season. And of course, as I mentioned, that there were a lot of things that happened this season, but it would be almost unfair to not mention the French Grand Prix at Le Mans, where Johann Zarco ending France's 71 year of wait for a home win. So you have even that. And so just the season was everything that you wanted to see and, lean on.
Well, those last 2 minutes actually felt like Greek and Latin to me. Basically, other than Australian GP and French GP and those names, it just flew over my head. Yeah.
Everything was Greek.
Just giving us all new ideas for the next season.
But Ichha, for our listeners, I think it is very important to understand here that she is one of the pillars of the Game Time podcast. She and Shashank, they produce whenever whoever is available. We give random times, random days, and one of them is always there. And she's always this silent spectator. So I would never have guessed that she's so deep into motorsports, especially MotoGP. So, I think maybe we can have some of it in the coming year.
And I don't think we cover MotoGP a whole lot. I think the last piece that we've written on MotoGP on maybe the website or the paper was when we had written about, it coming to India at some stage. Was it?
Yeah, there were talks about it, right? Hyderabad, if I'm not wrong.
Hyderabad.
Yeah. And then that fell through. Interesting. Good one, Ichha. You caught us off guard there, like the seagull on that MotoGP track.
Okay, and talking about sports that the Indian Express doesn't cover, here's our final moment. And this was the one that surprised me the most, perhaps. And this is coming from Arjun Sengupta. He is part of the Explain team. And here's what he said. So Arjun, what is your favorite sporting moment of 2025?
When the Dodgers won the World Series, I think it was one of the most incredible sporting spectacles I've ever witnessed. I know baseball isn't big in India, but for all cricket nerds out there especially, I think there's a lot that you will like about this sport. And for me, the final of the World Series, again, this is a Game 7. Both teams have won 3 each. Winner takes all. And it's being pitted as a David versus Goliath story, right? It's the Los Angeles Dodgers with the best player in the world and the biggest payroll versus the Toronto Blue Jays, who also have a big payroll, but, they cast themselves as a team of misfit underdogs. So the Blue Jays were winning for the longest time until the 9th innings. The 9th inning is the final inning of a baseball game. And a relatively unknown player. So of all the Dodgers' big name players, they don't hit the home run. It's Miguel Rojas, who's, end of the bench kind of guy. He hits an unlikely home run. This is, I think, his first home run of a right-handed pitcher in the whole season. So it's like the probability of that happening is just next to zero and ties the game. And then the Blue Jays still have an innings to respond and they almost win it. But two completely incredible moments at the field, right? And matter of inches. I don't even know how to describe it. But one base running error by the Blue Jays second baseman, and an incredible catch in the outfield where basically the Dodgers center fielder bulldozes his right fielder to make the catch, and the right fielder thinks that the ball has dropped, but somehow the catch happened, and then the game goes on for another 2-3 innings, and ultimately the Dodgers win. I was supporting the Dodgers, so I liked it, right? If I was a Blue Jays fan, I probably would have hated this game. But I think this game was everything that I like about sports. It was unpredictable. It was emotionally taxing in some ways. But since I ended up on the right side of the game, it was very rewarding. And for someone who's never watched a game of baseball, I think you would have enjoyed this game too. The emotion among the fans, they're waiting for their first World Series win. They're 2 outs away from winning it all. Then the game is tied and then they end up losing. So that experience, again, I could only imagine what it would have been in the stadium. And I was up till 9 o'clock in the morning to watch this game. So I stayed up all night effectively. It was worth it. And I was tired next day in office. I probably didn't do a great job that day, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And one of my favorite sporting moments of all time.
यार अर्जुन, अगर जो कोई ये डोमेस्टिक लीग को ये लोग वर्ल्ड सीरीज कह के करेंगे, वहीं पर आई लूज द इंटरेस्ट यार. So
Mir, but I think maybe Arjun didn't touch upon this, but what was fascinating about this whole Dodgers winning the World Series was the fact that a lot of the supporter base of this team is primarily Latino. I think the stadium that these guys play in is about 50,000 or something capacity here. Half of them are usually filled by Latinos, and this title came at a time when the Trump administration was basically conducting raid after raid on, people who of Latin American origin and basically throwing them on the ground, putting them in jails, deporting them, all of them. And there was a team here which was kind of winning it for those guys. So, I mean, the win was not just for the team. It was a lot about the city. It was a lot about the Latin Americans who were basically being persecuted by the administration in a sense. But then you also had, the team winning it for you.
Oh, that's a great point. I didn't know that. So that kind of puts it into context.
Also, Mir, I think if you remember when we had gone to Tokyo to cover the Olympics, there was a lot of chatter back then about this one Japanese baseballer called Shohei Ohtani.
Ohtani, yeah.
Like, he was the face of every magazine you could imagine. All of that was happening. Shohei Ohtani plays for the Dodgers. He was one of the stars of the team. He doesn't talk a lot. Like, you don't get... in American sport, you have athletes who are outspoken. You have athletes who are... Like, they will come and say whatever. They are like cowboys of the court, right? In chess, you have somebody like a Bobby Fischer. You have like a Hikaru Nakamura. In whatever sport you look at, right? In basketball, you have Steph Curry, LeBron James, who will call President Donald Trump a bum at a press conference, never caring about who's listening, what could happen to them. And then you have somebody like a Shohei Ohtani who is barely ever speaks. He's demure, if you will, if that term can be used. So he's that kind, and still almost all of America has kind of given their heart to this guy for something that he does. He's great at pitching. He's great at batting as well. So very fascinating sport. Obviously, we don't cover it too much because we have a rare Arjun Sengupta who probably follows it. The rest of us don't.
But that's putting it to great context, yeah. Good stuff there. Surprising, very surprising. I thought when Shashank, before the recording, when he mentioned there is a surprise sport, I was sure it would be Frisbee because jab se game time start hua, he's been trying to plug Frisbee over here. So, I mean, as random, Major League Baseball and Frisbee are as random for me. With due apologies, Arjun.
Okay, perfect, guys. Those were all the 10 moments. You guys want to share your favorite moments from 2025?
Okay, I'll do one moment that basically everybody in the sport was talking about. It got a lot of outsiders to like kind of focus on the sport. And then I will talk about a moment that maybe nobody noticed, but then it kind of showed exactly what chess players are, right? The first moment was Magnus Carlsen losing to Gukesh and then smashing his fist, and that was the fist thump on the table that was heard around the world. Once again, after I think after the whole Hans Niemann cheating allegations, this was the first time that the rest of the world took notice of sport again, the chess again, right? So it was one of those moments. And because when I was in Norway, like that frustration of Magnus for losing to Gukesh, that didn't just end with that fist smash, right? So I followed him on the way to his car. This man gets into his car, the door shut, and you can hear him bellow his guts out. And I'm told that apparently while they were on the way to the hotel, they had to stop the car somewhere. Magnus had to get out. He had to again scream into the whatever Norwegian air, and then he had to get back into the car. So it was that frustrating. Why was it frustrating? Is because Magnus at some point believes that he is much better than everybody else in the world, including Gukesh. And Gukesh is the guy who currently occupies the world champion's throne only because Magnus is somebody who's not interested in sitting on the throne anymore. So he's abdicated the throne. Gukesh now sits on it. So Magnus was basically drawing that game till the end. And there was one point at the end where he blundered. Now, Magnus Carlsen's entire legend is built on the fact that he could torture people in the end games. Like, everybody in chess agrees that Magnus is somebody whose primary forte is the end game, right? He's taken games that anybody would offer draws for and dragged them out so much that people end up crumbling and losing to him. That was his forte. And for Magnus to like kind of lose in an end game by blundering was something that it was a slap to the ego. Right? Then we started talking about what constitutes good behavior on a chessboard. Was he showing disrespect to his opponent and all of that? Right? So that was one moment. The other moment, the one that typified what kind of awkward creatures chess players are, happened recently at the Global Chess League closing ceremony, right? There's this team called the Alpine SG Pipers with Pragyananda, Anish Giri, Fabiano Caruana, Leon Mendoza, all of them. So they won the title. After the presentations were done, they were told कि Royal Opera House जो है मुंबई में, उसके balcony पे हम जाते हैं. We'll give you champagne bottles and you're supposed to, like a Formula 1 drivers do, you'll have to spray it into the audience. Now, a couple of problems with that. None of these guys have ever handled a champagne bottle. So they are given 3 champagne bottles. Like there is a video of this also. Like they are very awkwardly looking around about what to do with this. At some point, they look at the manager doing properly, jaise karna chahiye, like a Formula 1 driver would. So then they also start very vigorously shaking the bottle. Then at some point, they manage to open the bottle after discussing the trajectory of the cork and everything. The champagne starts flowing. It literally falls in front of them on the parapet and it does not get splashed into the crowd, which is a good thing because there were a bunch of kids in the crowd. So yeah, that kind of, for me, typified the kind of power people chess players are. Absolutely. Like ye sara cheez, sometimes, tournament organizers bring these guys in, things in ki, matlab, chess players hai, you should celebrate like other sportsmen or other athletes, but it kind of, is lost on them.
Yeah, I saw your Instagram story and that was extremely funny, the way they tried to do that. Vinayk, do you want to go with your moment or should I?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've already mentioned my moment in the middle of the podcast. I mean, yes, India winning the Women's World Cup. Don't think anything is going to top that. So that's my piece. You can go ahead, Mihir.
Oh, so then I was just, slightly worried that our moments could end up being the same because this was one of those very, like I mentioned, it was a slow sports here when it comes to Olympic sports, right? And it wasn't a lot, but one thing that I really, it was heartwarming was Kidambi Srikanth reaching that final of the Malaysia Masters, right? It was more than 1,000 days, I think, Vinayk, you had mentioned in your report, I think 1,000 or 1,200 days since he had reached that far in a tournament. And his expressions, that win over Tanaka in the semi-final. I mean, Srikanth, Vinayk, we've spoken so much, right? He's this one player we've been rooting for to win, succeed for a very long time, just for the kind of player he is, beautiful, elegant player that he is. And it hasn't been a great couple of years for Indian badminton. Especially for Srikanth, he couldn't go for the Paris Olympics too. And at the start of the cycle to get that kind of a win for him, it was just very pleasing. Not much happened after that, but well, that's sport. I mean, you have that 1 week, 1 day where things fall in place for you and it was quite beautiful.
Yeah, nice choice, Mihir. Actually, I remember that week for what Srikanth said. I can't remember if it was a quarterfinal or the semi-final. After the match, when he was asked by the BWF media person, where have you been all this while? And he said, yeah, even the referees have been asking me. The chair umpires are asking me where I've been. So yeah, it's It was very nice.
It's just one of those stories that it just kind of sums up why we like sport, right? And following the journey of these players, it's just incredible when they're losing constantly and still every week they travel, they wake up, they go and compete and lose and then repeat the whole process again. For someone like them to have such a win after more than 1200 days of not so happy outings on the court, it was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Srikanth is someone you just want to watch him play every time he gets on the court. He is the kind who will delight you and frustrate you in equal measure, but he's the sort of player who makes you fall in love with the sport as much as hate it sometimes. So one of those clear guys you want to root for sort of player. Not the most flawless, but certainly one of the most elegant. Nice choice, Mihir. Actually, just one more from badminton if I could pick. I think, Sindhu at the World Championships, even though she fell short of a medal, I think for a brief while there in that win against Wang Zhi, the second best player in the world this year, she showed glimpses of, I think, 2019 Sindhu. We were talking about that during, I think, on the day of the match as well. This is one of those moments that wound the clock back for Sindhu and showed there is still, she's not done yet. I mean, unfortunately, she couldn't go on to get that medal with just one more win needed, but that win against Wang Zhi was something else. That day I remember. Yeah. Crazy performance.
Yeah. Quite stunning. This has been a marathon episode. Before we go, Shashank, do you want to come in with your favorite moment?
मेरे favorite sporting moments यही थे. I love when, I get to record with people who are talking about something so passionately. So I had a great time talking to these people, even though जो भी वो बोल रहे थे, जो भी वो players के नाम ले रहे थे, I had no idea who they were, most of them. But yeah, I just liked putting all of this together.
It's an easy escape route, man. Doesn't count, Shashank. You just pick the easiest option there is.
Last weekend जो हमारी गली में pen fighting हुई थी, वो अब now I don't know how many people can relate to that, वरना वो mention करता हूँ.
Brilliant. It has been a marathon episode, but I guess you'll allow us to indulge us once a year, and this has been that kind of a thing. It's been a great year, and I guess I speak for all of us here that, hopefully it'll be a cracking 2026. I can't even think of the number of events that are lined up. I was just doing some math, and guys, on Indian soil itself, in the first 181 days of the year, from January to June, we have 146 T20 games, men and women. So good luck to us. God bless us, everyone who's watching the game and following T20 cricket, because it's going to be mad. The next 6 months of the year are going to be mad for different reasons, which we'll be talking about at a later episode.
Yeah, I was just going to say 2026 promises to be utterly bonkers year for sport. Just the World Cups and the Asian Games and all these big events, one after another. It's going to be, quite hectic. I think 2025 was, like you said at the start, very odd in that sense post-COVID. We've been having one major event or the other every year. 2025 had just, I think, the Cricket World Cup at home, but no multi-sport major event. But 2026 promises to be bonkers in that sense.
Lovely. That's it, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking with us all through 2025. We'll be back with a new episode of Game Time in January. And before we go, wishing all of you a very happy new year. Thanks for listening.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.